I think that it's imperative as a constitutional officer that you look over more of what's going on in the county government than just that one particular office that you're assigned to. I think it's important that everybody work together, and that I would like to work legislatively at some point to pass some type of a law where if a constitutional officer sees something going on within the government, that they would be required, kind of like schools, where if they see something going on, they're required to report it. And I think the constitutional officers being duly elected to represent the taxpayers of the county, that they should also have it within them that they are required to report things that they see that maybe a different agency is not following the Constitution or something of that sort. So I don't think this should stop with just a particular office. I think it should be, you should be a constitutional officer, means that you need to be looking out for the taxpayer on all levels of government and not just one particular office. As far as Agenda 21 goes, it is insidious and it needs to be understood. I encourage everyone to get involved, become a part of the Tea Party, learn more about Agenda 21. One of the things that I see happening that concerns me very much is that there's so much property in Lake County that actually belongs either to the state or the county or some other government entity, that the tax base is actually shrinking smaller and smaller and smaller. And this is all a part of the Agenda 21 movement too, is for the government to own as much property as possible. The government doesn't pay any taxes on all that property. So the government's growing and the tax base is shrinking, and it's only going to continue unless you put people in office who have an understanding of the whole scope of what's going on and not just their particular area of expertise. Thank you.
If you don't think Agenda 21 is going on around here, you need to open your eyes. That plan is a socialist plan. Some of its premises deal with green buildings, sustainable development, conservation easements, wetlands, inner cities, brownfield developments, land use plans. It's happening. What is their goal? They want to get everybody into the cities, into multifamily housing, ride around in electric cars, and be under their control. Well, what's happening right now? In Lake County, 50% of the homes that sold last year are foreclosures. Where are these people going? They're moving into apartments, multifamily housing in the cities. Also, what commercial real estate is doing good these days? Apartments, not any of the other commercial real estate. As far as a land use plan, if you wanted to take 100 acres and develop it into a subdivision, guess what? You've got to set 30–40% of it aside for green areas. You don't get compensated for that. That's money you're not going to be able to put into subdivision lots or anything productive. And me, as an appraiser, what am I learning about in my professional education? Conservation easements, green commercial construction, green commercial residential. It's happening. Check it out. Look it up on the internet. A lot of these cities in Lake County, Eustis is one of them, they don't even have zoning anymore. They only go by land use plans. So it's happening. You better be aware of it and start fighting it. Thank you.
A few more questions. We're trying to get these from the audience as well. We got one. I'm going to start with Mr. Havill. Is the current procedure for filing homestead exemptions adequate, or should it be modified?
As Carey said before, you can file for homestead by mail. You don't have to go in there and do it. The problem we have found, I mentioned earlier, that we have found homestead fraud where one lives in this house and gets homestead and the other one lives, quote, lives someplace else. When you get things in the mail, you don't know the best of the background. And what happens is that somebody files for homestead and you go ahead and accept it. That's why I set up a fraud department, and I've got a fraud investigator who goes out and knocks on doors and finds out renters are renting a homestead, checks with neighbors, checks with cars in the driveway to see what their car tags are, goes to the utility company to find out whose name the utilities are in, and a lot of other things. We are putting, on an average, about $28 million worth of property back on the tax roll every year. And to give you another statistic, out of 198,000 parcels in Lake County, today, $33,969 pay no property taxes. And it's because of the games that the legislature's play in Tallahassee. They put a constitutional amendment on the ballot to give green-eyed people a break, so everybody else pays that part of the bill for the green-eyed people, but then the green-eyed people have to pay the bill for some other group that's getting that. They're taking money out of your pocket and putting it in the other pocket and going home and laughing because they got votes from both of those groups. There are two basic groups that we've got. One is the lobbyists, special interests. They provide the money. Then they take that money and go back home and tell the voters, I'm protecting you from those people. Thank you.
Well, the fact that the legislature has to keep coming around and amending things shows you right there that there's a problem with the system. Yes, there is a problem with the system. And unless you put a property appraiser in there that's going to fight to make legislative changes, the system is only going to continue. And there are a lot of inequities. The problem that I have with the system right now is that, as Mr. Havill stated, they do have a fraud investigative team that comes out to your house unbeknownst to you, and you have no way of even defending or talking about the situation at all. They just do the whole thing, which if I robbed a 7-Eleven with a gun, I would have more rights than you do with your property appraisal and the system that's there now. So I do have a problem with government overreach in that area. I think that that is ridiculous to have a fraud investigator that doesn't have any training. He doesn't even have any police training, and he's out there questioning your neighbors, taking down notes, taking pictures of your house, and doesn't have any fraud investigation training. I don't think that that's right, especially since now that they have the presumption of correctness that this person that has no training that was sent out by Ed's office just arbitrarily makes things up. That's why I think it's important that you take responsibility to make sure that these things aren't happening to you. Because you can only tell from your record card, from the appraiser's notes, if they've been out to your house and what changes they have made. They will make changes to your quality grade that will affect the price of your home without even letting you know. And I think that you should follow your property card as closely as you follow your credit reports to make sure that there's no tinkering going on unbeknownst to you. Thank you.
Clearly, we need to be able to allow homeowners to do more of the process online. Here's an example. Here's the budget. For 2012, they have budgeted $48,000 just for postage. Because they mail out your trim notice every year, this should be made optional to be mailed to people, and they should be able to get it online. That would cut down a lot of the spending for postage and paper and everything else. If you could file your homestead online, that would be great. I'm sure everybody in this room is an honest person and would not be doing fraud. But the fraud's out there. They do need to crack down on that. They've been doing a good job of it. But yes, we definitely need to bring more online. I mean, everything. My wife pays our bills at home. I don't think she's actually used a stamp in 4 years. Everything's online. We need to get up with the times. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the benefits of having the online submission of homestead exemption applications is because that ultimately reduces your manpower or your hours that you need to process these. It leaves more time to go after the fraud. And some examples I think have already been mentioned. I mean, someone who's living in another state is not eligible for homestead exemption here in the state of Florida, yet they attempt it. Someone who's renting their home out they're not eligible. And so they should have to, they shouldn't get the homestead exemption. If they're trying to, in 2 counties, claim homestead exemption in both counties. So by allowing more of the homestead exemption online, that does free up staff to address the fraud. And the fact is, there's still mistakes that are going to be made. And there are going to be mistakes in which you, the taxpayer, are going to be unfairly accused of something. Maybe unfairly, your home may not be assessed. And I just want to address one little issue that I worked on. I want to tell you some of the protections that we have tried to provide you if there is something unfair in the system and you want to challenge it. When you challenge an exemption or classification or any of those, you go in Lake County before a value adjustment board. It used to be 5 government officials. This was the appeals board. 3 of them represent the county commission, 2 of the school board. They were the ones receiving your money. They were the ones that you had to file the appeal in front of. You almost never won because they had a vested interest in ensuring more tax money. Well, we were able to change that in the legislature to put 2 citizens on that. I like to say 40% of the board now is citizens to give you a fairer shake, and we changed the presumption of correction that Pam had mentioned to make the property appraiser prove his case more thoroughly so the value adjustment board can make an accurate decision on whether your claim is valid or not. Thank you.
Mr. Havill, would you like to get 30 seconds?
I ought to get about 15 minutes for each one. Thank you.
Some degree of fairness, give you 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. As far as the $48,000 postage for trim, that's exactly right. You know why? The state legislature requires us to spend that money to bail those things out. Talk to his cohorts up in Tallahassee about that. As far as possible fraud, Ms. Lee says we don't do anything about it. We notify them, they come in, they present documents or whatever, and we back off it if we're mistaken, we found out some information from the homeowner we didn't know about. The VFB doesn't, they're the taxing authorities. I don't care if your home is worth $1,000 or $1 million. That's what I call it. I have nothing to do with taxes.
Okay, then we're just down to a handful of questions here. These 2 are direct.
You mentioned me again. Can I just...
Yeah, 30 seconds.
He mentions me every time.
I just want to make you aware of one example. The Epiphany Celebration Angelical Church, they had their secretary actually suffered from a stroke, and they did not get their paperwork turned in time. So they had considerable issues with the property appraiser's office. The property appraiser was not going to give them the exemption that they were entitled to. They were going to have to pay $12,000 in taxes, and then the VA board did overturn it. But that little I call it power issue that went on, actually cost the taxpayer well over $500.
Mr. Baker, would you like to rebut anything? Okay. Okay, these 2 questions were directed toward Pam, and one is very brief, I think, and if anybody else wants to jump in after she gets done, have at it. The first question is a little lengthy. Can you explain any weaknesses in the current appraiser's process for when a taxpayer gets a higher valuation on their trim notice and the process to get an explanation or challenge it? What would you do to change that process? And the next question is, which is shorter, is there any candidate besides Pam Lee who wants to cut the salary below $130,000? If so, by how much? So Pam?
Well, the first thing that I would do once I become your property appraiser is make the office a much friendlier place. And also, in addition, I'm going to be putting the flag in there. The Florida flag has the state symbol in it, which includes the state motto, which is "In God We Trust." We're all going to sit down over a cup of coffee and a plate of cookies. If you have an issue, when you get your trim notice, you call the office, and the first thing I'm going to do is invite you to come in and sit down. The second thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a copy of your full record card. And I'm going to say, let's go over every single piece of information on this record card, and you tell me what you disagree with. Then, if I may see where, yes, we've made an error, because you know what, the property appraiser's office is not 100% correct on everything, despite the fact that the legislature gave them the presumption of correctness, which is almost impossible to get through. So then once I establish exactly what it is on that property record card that you disagree with, if we don't come to an agreement at that time, I will tell you that I will accept any state certified property appraisal's assessment of your property. That should eliminate a lot of problems. There were 600 petitions filed last year, and some of them generated lawsuits. There's 12 open lawsuits right now, which only cost a lot of money to you, the taxpayer, about issues, because nobody sat down and just said, okay, here's your property record card. What is it that you disagree with? It's that simple. And it's not any more complicated than that. It's a piece of property. This is not rocket science. All the data is there. All the facts are there. You just have to sit down and be open to communicating with the constituents about what it is exactly that they disagree with. And until they have all the facts, they may not know what they disagree with. So I think it's important to make sure that everybody can sit down together and have a discussion in a very unemotional way to determine exactly what the issues are. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. You've already answered the $130,000 question. Mr. Price?
The salary that the property appraiser gets is different in every county. The state legislature has a formula that they fill out. It's got 6 variables, so if you like that math formula, you should see it, to determine what the salary is for each county property appraiser. And I believe that the legislature made the formula to be fair and equitable among the counties. As far as the assessments go, this is why I keep stressing it's so important to have someone who understands your market. And I have an example here today of Legacy. Anybody here interested in what Legacy's doing? No. This is why your assessments can vary so much. Over the past 12 months here in Legacy, you've had sales as low as $78,750, as high as $255,000. Now that's just within Legacy over the past 12 months. Your median sales price over the last 12 months is $140,000. Now, that's the lowest level Legacy has ever been in. The good news in all that is it's been that same $140,000 for the last 2 years. So you're stabilizing in Legacy. What's Lake County doing? Lake County's still dropping. There's no stabilization in Lake County. Are you doing a little better than Lake County? Yes. 15% of your sales in Legacy last year were foreclosures. 50% in Lake County were. So, I've got this information available. My wife, Barb, stand up. This is my wife, Barb, of 35 years. If anybody would like a copy of this flyer, just go see her and she'll give you one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Mr. Ford?
I'll go to the question this time. It was 2-part. The first was about challenging your assessments. And I had already mentioned, I'll just repeat it. When you challenge your assessment, you go before a value adjustment board. We had 5 elected officials. I helped make it 3 elected, 2 citizens, so that you have a jury of your peers to go before if you challenge this. And then also we changed the rules to make the property appraiser now explain his methodology. Before he would just take an assumption of correctness position, saying I'm right, the law says that I'm right, and now he has to explain, and so the value adjustment board can take that account. And then as far as my pay, this is a horrible question. Right now the statute requires that the property appraiser gets that paycheck. Now Pam can give the money back, and that's fine, but that won't, it's still going to be paid, and the money's not going to be given back to the taxpayers. My challenge or my promise to you is that I plan to institute enough reforms, enough changes that I'm going to more than pay for my paycheck and more and we're going to continue to provide cost savings to the taxpayers. And then I also lastly want to mention that three of us, if either three of the challengers are elected, automatically you'll get a property appraiser that's only getting one paycheck instead of two. So.
Yes, thank you. That last comment, Carey. The retirement I am receiving because of the cancer I told you about is something I would receive anyway. It's not costing taxpayers another penny. Then whoever takes my place would get paid the $131,000. You want somebody like this who can get in the drop program because he had 10 years in Tallahassee, and he can use this job to get his retirement higher. That's why I said the St. Lucie County Property Appraiser was in the state senate. It was to build up his retirement and keep his side business going as an appraiser.